This started last week when I was searching the internet and looking for something to do, as I've been really bored since I got fired from my previous job in an archaeological firm. The reason cited was unprofessional behavior. Well, I've been sitting on my butt the last few days watching anime, drinking beer and browsing YouTube, watching those creepypastas that are all the craze these days. So, while searching the web, I found one of those vacation on a budget scams. My first thought was, what foolishness these people have. But in the corner, I saw an ad to complete a survey and sign up to be entered in for a chance to stay at a beautiful resort, complete with hiking trails, wildlife guides, and the like. Well, I figured, fuck it. Why not? If anything else, it was a distraction for a few minutes. After a week, I got an email saying I'd won the stay at the resort, that I could pick up my prize tickets at their main office. As I was driving to the office, I was expecting to get there and find they wanted me to buy something. But when I got there, everyone was friendly, and not one single person seemed to want to try and sell me anything, which was a nice relief. I was asked to take a seat. "Yeah, no problem," I replied. After a few minutes, a man with a smile came up to me, asking if I was Mr. Gumption. I said yes, and we went to his office. He said he was glad to see that a really nice person had won this great opportunity and got to go to the resort, which was kind of creepy, to say the least. Who says this is a great opportunity? I brushed it off as a guy having an off day. So I got to the resort, and the place was amazing. The rooms, really nice and clean. They have a really nice bar just to the right as you enter the main lobby, a pool and a hot tub. This place is sweet. A really great place to stay. At least, the first 3 days were. My third night here was a little strange. While I was in my room, I swore I could hear what sounded like a woman's voice, just talking in whispers. Later that night, I woke up and, on my way to the washroom, just in the corner of my eye, I couldn't be sure, but I swear I saw a shadow run from one side of the room to my bed. I passed it off as a trick of the light, messing with me, just as I'd woken up. As I started walking back to my bed, I noticed there was a huge bulge in the sheets, roughly about the size of a really thin woman. In that moment, I felt a chill run down my spine. At this point, my hands started shaking. My breathing became deep and shallow, and I grasped the sheet on the corner of the bed. In a split second, I steeled myself, ready for anything. I ripped the sheets off the bed and screamed as to instill fear into whoever will be awaiting me in my bed. As the sheets fell to the floor, I yelled at the top of my lungs to find that the bed was empty. Feeling silly and tired, I got back into bed, but I'd forgotten to grab the sheets off the floor. Feeling like a huge idiot, I got up, went to the foot of the bed, bent over to pick up the covers, when I felt a soft, cold thing wrap around my ankle. I jumped away, what felt like 20 feet. I fell to the ground and stumbled up on my way to the light switch. I turned the light on and turned back to the bed to see nothing. Absolutely nothing. I checked under the bed to find that it had a guard on it, preventing anything going under. I sighed with relief. I couldn't believe I was getting myself psyched into this kind of nonsense. The next day was amazing. I got to go out and see wild cats and bears. God, such a nice place. The animals were quite majestic. But at one point, I noticed that all the resort staff would stare at me, and once they realized I'd noticed, they would play it off as though they weren't staring at me. Now, this creeped me out even more, and I wanted to get out of there as fast as I could. But I was on a tour. If I left, where was I going to go? At the end of the wildlife tour, I rushed back to my room to pack my luggage and call a taxi so I could go home. At the moment I called for the taxi, I heard a knock on my door. This gave me a chill. I turned slowly towards the door, then approached as quietly as I could, just to hear another knock at the door. I stopped. It felt like the room had dropped 4 degrees in temperature as I heard a small, frail voice say, "Hello, sir. I have a letter for you." What hit my mind was, how did this person know I was in my room? I hadn't made a sound, and no one had seen me enter the room. My heart dropped. The next few words this woman said, "Sir, don't worry. We won't let anything ever happen to you. You're too important to the resort." My mind was going mad, but I did my best to say only, "Oh, 1 second, I'll be right there." I looked for something to grab, something that could be used as a weapon. I grabbed the frail, cheap lamp and slowly opened the door. Like the night before, there was nothing there. My response was that of complete and utter incredulity. I found myself uttering out loud, "God, what the frick is going on here?" Then, to the last day of this increasingly terrible trip to this damned resort. I was full of delight. I was getting out of this shithole. But then I got another knock on my door that morning. It was a stewardess from the other day. The one that had knocked on my door telling me how important I was to the resort. No, not this time. I jumped up and ran to the door. I looked at the bottom of the door to see if her feet were there. Yes, you could see the shadow of her feet. In a moment's notice, I swung the door open, and to my dismay, there was no one there. A moment later was when I felt it. A cold wisp of air swept across my neck, and some soft, cold hands firmly landed on my shoulders, with just 3 soft words coming out, sounding rough as if they hadn't used actual words in years. "You're ours now." My heart sunk to the bottom of my stomach. The hands left my shoulders, and I turned around slowly to see I was alone in my room. That was it. I was fucking done. I grabbed my phone and headed out. On my way out of the door, the resort staff were asking if I was okay and if I needed any help. I firmly explained, no, I was fine. As I opened the lobby doors to leave, the receptionist calmly said, "Sir, you'll be back. They always come back." I screamed, "Fuck you," as loud as I could. She just smiled and tilted her head slightly to the side and said, "Okay, sir. You have a nice time outside." I stormed out the doors to find I was in the middle of nowhere. I turned round quickly, and the resort was gone. Not a trace was there to indicate if there had ever been a resort. I checked my phone. It said I'd been there for over a month. I walked for what felt like forever. Then I heard it off in the distance. The faint sound of a car. I instinctively felt joy as I started to run, and as I got closer, there were people. I walked across a road. I must have looked quite the mess, as a man ran up to me asking if I was okay. And that's when things really went dark. I woke up in a white room with medical equipment running that was attached to me. The nurse saw I was awake and came and pressed the red emergency button and started to tell me I was going to be okay and that everything was going to be fine. The next day, the police came to my room, asking me all the questions. Who was with me? Was there anyone else with me when I escaped? I said, no, it was just me. The look the officer gave me was one of frustration and concern. Immediately, I asked what had happened. One officer looked at me and asked what had happened to my wife. Wife? I'm single and never married. They looked at each other and said, Mr. Gumption, you and your wife of 8 years disappeared over a month and a half ago. I told them again I was never married and demanded proof of this wife they claimed was missing. The older officer reached out his hand, which had a photo in it. To my complete dismay, it was her. It was the receptionist from the resort. That's when everything clicked. The unknown woman outside the door, the covers in the shape of the woman, which had no one in them, and the weird disposition of the receptionist as I left the resort. The only lead the police had on our disappearance was that I'd won a trip to the Dreams and Wildlife Resort. But when they looked into it, they found it had been shut down 5 years ago because of a woman who'd been found murdered in her room, and the scandal had put the resort out of business. A few months went by, and I got an email saying thank you for my business and staying at the Dreams and Wildlife Hotel, with a picture of their new updated brochure. Damned, it looked enticing. On the front was a bunch of happy people, and behind them, a smiling, beautiful receptionist. It was my wife. At the very bottom were only 8 words. Come back anytime. Your next day is complimentary. And then I got a text message. It was just one word. Help! Hey there. Thank you so much for taking the time to drop by and listen to this story today. It really means a lot to me. I put a lot of time and effort into making these videos, so it's nice to know that there's someone out there listening. Do me a little favor, would you? Click that like button, leave a comment, and if you really feel like it, why not subscribe too? Okay, happy tales everyone. See you soon.